Welcome to Whispers in the Dark. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment, and check out the amazing products in the description. Now enjoy the story.
I never imagined my life would change so drastically in just 1 week. I'm still trying to process what happened, but I need to write this down while the details are fresh in my mind. Maybe someone will find this account and understand the danger that lurks in the waters of Lake Champlain. I'm a biology professor in Burlington, Vermont. 3 months ago, I received a grant to research the aquatic species of the lake during the summer. It was the perfect opportunity, a solitary, peaceful job, just me and nature. I rented a secluded cabin on the west shore of the lake, near the New York border. The location was ideal, direct access to the water, few neighbors, and complete silence to focus on my research. The first few weeks were exactly as planned. I would wake up early, go out in my small boat, collect samples, and take notes on the local ecosystem. The lake has a legendary reputation because of the stories about Champ, the supposed creature that lives in its depths. Obviously, as a scientist, I considered it just local folklore, an American version of the Loch Ness Monster, stories created to attract tourists and give kids something to marvel at. One day, while collecting samples in a deeper part of the lake, I noticed something strange on my sonar. The device showed a large object, much bigger than any known fish in these waters. Initially, I attributed the signal to equipment malfunction, but when it moved quickly away from the boat, I became intrigued. I noted the anomaly, but didn't think much of it. After all, it could just be a school of fish grouped together that the sonar interpreted as a single organism. 3 days later, I returned to the same location. The sky was partly cloudy, and the lake was exceptionally calm. As I worked, I noticed movements in the water about 100 yards from the boat. It looked like something big was moving just below the surface. I grabbed my binoculars and observed closely. That's when I saw something I still can't explain today. A dark hump emerged from the water, followed by another, and another. The undulating form moved fluidly, almost hypnotically. For a brief moment, something that resembled the head of an elongated horse surfaced, before diving back into the depths. My heart raced. The rational part of my brain tried to find logical explanations, maybe a group of otters swimming in a line, or a floating log being pushed by underwater currents. But what I saw didn't fit any of these explanations. I quickly turned on my camera, but when I pointed it at the spot, the water had already calmed down. That night, I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned in bed, mentally replaying what I had witnessed. I searched online for Champ sighting reports and was surprised by the consistency of the descriptions over the years, many of them surprisingly similar to what I had seen. I decided that the next day I would return to the same location with better equipment. The next morning brought a dense fog over the lake. Even so, I went out in my boat, taking an underwater camera and a hydrophone. I navigated to the point where I had the previous sighting and turned off the engine, letting the boat drift silently. I placed the hydrophone in the water and adjusted my headphones. For almost an hour, I heard nothing but the normal sounds of the lake. Then, I picked up something. A low sound, almost like a deep groan, followed by a kind of pulsating call that I had never heard before. It wasn't a sound produced by any fish or aquatic mammal I knew. The sound increased in volume and, suddenly, I felt my boat rock slightly. Something large had passed underneath it. When I looked into the water, I saw a huge shadow moving slowly. It was at least 3 times larger than my 15-foot boat. My heart pounded as I tried to maintain my composure to film what was happening. The shape approached the surface, and once again, I saw those distinct undulations, like multiple humps on a serpentine body. That's when something hit the bottom of the boat hard. I almost lost my balance, and my camera fell into the water. The impact didn't seem accidental, there was intent behind it. Another hit, stronger, caused the boat to start spinning. I looked around frantically and saw something that chilled me to the bone. About 20 yards away, a head emerged from the water. It had the elongated shape of a horse, but larger, with dark eyes that seemed fixed on me. The creature stayed like that for a few seconds before submerging again. I started the engine in panic and sped towards the shore. As the boat cut through the water, I felt something following me from below. The sonar showed a large object that tracked my path, but keeping a certain distance. When I finally reached the shore, I jumped out of the boat and ran to the cabin, stumbling on the rocky beach. Looking back, I saw something large create a wave on the surface before disappearing into the depths. I tried to rationalize what happened that night. Maybe it was some unknown species of giant sturgeon, or a group of fish moving in sync. But I knew I was fooling myself. What I saw didn't fit into any known category. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of something dragging itself near the cabin. I looked out the window and noticed wet marks on the shore, as if something huge had come out of the water and moved towards my cabin before returning to the lake. The marks were wide and had a strange pattern, not like footprints, but as if a large body had slid over the rocks. I spent the day in the cabin, reviewing my notes and recordings. The hydrophone had captured those strange sounds, but the quality wasn't good enough for detailed analysis. I decided it would be prudent to install cameras on the shore, facing the lake. If something was really coming out of the water at night, I wanted concrete proof. That night, after installing the cameras, I fell asleep on the sofa while monitoring the screens. I woke up startled by a loud noise coming from outside. I looked at the monitors and saw one of the cameras shaking violently. Something had hit it. Another camera showed a large, dark shape moving among the trees near the shore. It was difficult to distinguish details in the darkness, but it seemed to be part of the same creature I had seen in the lake, an extension of the elongated body that moved serpentine through the vegetation. A thud on the door made me jump. Something was trying to get in. The sound repeated, louder. It didn't sound like someone knocking, but something pushing or scraping against the wood. I grabbed my flashlight and, reluctantly, approached the door. Through the side window, I saw a dark shape moving on the porch. It looked wet and reflected the moonlight. When I pointed the flashlight, the shape retreated quickly towards the lake, leaving a damp trail. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. When the sun rose, I examined the porch. There were strange marks on the wood, like wide scratches, and a kind of viscous substance spread across the floor. I collected samples of this substance and planned to send them for analysis when I returned to town. As the days passed, the encounters became more frequent. The creature seemed to be studying me as much as I was studying it. I noticed a pattern. It appeared mainly at dawn and dusk, often approaching closer when I was alone in the boat. It never showed direct aggression, but there was a disturbing curiosity in its behavior, as if it was trying to understand who I was and what I was doing there. A week after the first sighting, I decided to do something risky. I went out in the boat at dusk, taking an underwater camera attached to a long pole. If the creature appeared, I would try to get clearer images. I navigated to a deep point in the lake and turned off the engine. The water was extraordinarily calm, and the sky was painted orange as the sun set on the horizon. I didn't have to wait long. The sonar detected something large approaching from below. I prepared the camera and waited. The water began to ripple gently about 30 yards from the boat. I saw the familiar undulations, that series of humps that moved in sync. It was bigger than I remembered, maybe 50 feet long or more. Then the head emerged. In the twilight, I could see details I hadn't noticed before. The skin was dark and glossy, with lighter patches. The eyes were larger than I imagined, almost the size of plates, with an indescribable intelligence reflected in them. The head was elongated, really similar to a horse's, but with reptilian features, like fine scales that covered certain areas. The creature watched me for a moment that felt like an eternity. I felt like I was being assessed in some way. Then, to my astonishment, it began to swim slowly towards the boat. My mind screamed for me to start the engine and run, but my body wouldn't respond. I was paralyzed, both by fear and fascination. When the creature was less than 10 yards away, I dipped the camera into the water, trying to capture images of the submerged body. It was a mistake. The instant the equipment touched the water, the creature's behavior changed drastically. It emitted a high-pitched sound, like an amplified hiss, and submerged quickly. Seconds later, I felt a violent impact on the bottom of the boat, strong enough to almost knock me into the water. Another impact, and another. The boat began to crack. Water splashed over the sides as the creature continued to ram the hull. In desperation, I started the engine and sped towards the shore, but it was too late. The boat was sinking rapidly. I grabbed my life jacket and braced myself for the inevitable. When the boat capsized, I was thrown into the icy lake water. I swam frantically towards the shore, which seemed unattainably distant. With each stroke, I expected to feel something pulling me down. I looked back and saw the creature's head emerging again, its eyes fixed on me. It didn't approach any closer, just watched as I struggled to reach safety. By some miracle, I managed to reach the shore. I dragged myself onto dry land, soaked and trembling, not just from the cold, but from pure terror. I looked back at the lake in time to see the creature submerge slowly, as if it had completed some kind of mission. In the following days, I didn't dare to return to the lake. I packed my remaining equipment and prepared to leave the cabin. The night before my departure, I heard strange sounds coming from the shore. I looked out the window and saw the creature partially emerged, its eyes reflecting the moonlight. It stayed there for almost an hour, as if standing guard, before disappearing into the dark waters. I left Burlington the next day and haven't been back since. I sent the samples I collected for analysis, but the results were inconclusive, only indicating unknown proteins and DNA that didn't match any cataloged species. My hydrophone recording was analyzed by bioacoustics experts, who confirmed that the sounds did not correspond to any known species of fish or aquatic mammal. Since then, I've obsessively researched Champ and other lake creatures. The reports date back hundreds of years, with the Native American Abenaki and Iroquois tribes describing a large serpent with a horse's head inhabiting the lake. European colonists also reported sightings since the 17th century. The descriptions are consistent over time: a serpentine body with multiple humps, a head similar to a horse's, and a generally non-aggressive behavior, unless provoked. I don't know what I saw in Lake Champlain. Maybe it's a relict species, an isolated group of prehistoric reptiles that somehow survived to this day in the depths of the lake. Or maybe it's something completely different, something that science is not yet prepared to understand or classify. What I know for sure is that we are not alone in the waters of Lake Champlain. There is something there, something ancient and intelligent, something that observes and assesses those who venture into its territory. I don't believe the creature is inherently malevolent. It seemed more defensive and territorially protective than aggressive. But its size and power make it dangerous, especially when it feels threatened. I still wake up in the middle of the night, in a cold sweat, remembering those huge eyes watching me as I struggled in the icy waters. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I can hear that strange, pulsating call I captured on the hydrophone, as if the creature was trying to communicate something that we are too limited to understand. For anyone planning to visit Lake Champlain, especially the deeper, more isolated areas, my advice is simple: be respectful. You may not be alone in those waters. And the depths of the lake hold secrets that may be best left undisturbed. Because some discoveries, once made, cannot be undone. And some creatures, once disturbed, do not easily forget those who have invaded their territory.
We've reached the end of our story. What did you think? Leave a comment and share your thoughts. Don't forget to follow the channel, like the video, and check out the amazing products in the description. And don't miss the next video, you're going to love it.